welcome, Dominic. Colenso, is that right?
Colenso, yeah, absolutely.
Explain what the origins of your surname.
Oh goodness! Apparently, and I haven't done the research myself, but my auntie has. It goes back to 16th century Italian merchants who got shipwrecked off Cornwall. So there are a few of us, but not many of us in the UK, and there might be some more of us in Italy in the mafia or something like that.
That's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
lots of colour there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What would you say if I asked you who you were? So, Dominic, who are you?
I'm a husband and a dad, first and foremost, and a business owner second, I suppose.
That's interesting, isn't it? And I've followed you in terms of the recent edition, Four Legs. Tell us about this
puppy owner, part of the family. We've had him for 6 days now, so we're in chaos stage. He's a very cute little golden retriever. His name's Brae, and he's already kind of completely stolen our hearts, and is a big part of the family.
Is he living inside the house with you, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And with regards to the pet, because we have a love of animals too here, would you say they're therapy? Different kinds of therapy, obviously, but
yeah, I do. I mean, I'd certainly say you get a massive oxytocin hit when it bounds up to you and gives you a lick and a cuddle. And I think they've certainly. We lost the dog. The reason we've got a new puppy is that we lost a puppy. Not lost, he died in November of last year, and we learned a huge amount through that experience. He was only with us for a year. He died unexpectedly in his sleep. We'd had a lot of what we thought in the early months were struggles, and then we got over those struggles, and he absolutely became kind of a key part of the family. And he really did teach us a lot of stuff, mainly how to chill out and not worry about things getting chewed.
Yes. So what breed was he?
He was a working Cocker Spaniel, so a little bit of a firecracker.
Yeah, they are firecrackers. Lots of energy.
Yeah.
What would you say is your why, Dominic?
I think my why is making impact and helping other people make impact. So, I'm blessed, I think, in terms of having a skill set which is universally required to be a fully functioning human being. You can't not communicate. We're all communicating all of the time. Most of us spend a huge amount of time at work having to communicate, more time at work than we do at home. And most of us find the communication side of things at work really, really difficult. So being able to help other people have an impact in the world and get their ideas out there and build their careers, their lives, their families is incredibly important to me. And I feel very lucky that I get to do that every day.
Mm. Well, I've watched you and listened to you with Daniel Priestley, and what I gleaned from that was, when you give presentations, what you said was treat it as a dinner party. And I thought that was so cute. Because my training was with London Rail, Brian Rose. So it was anything but cute. Under the spotlight, we were. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we get the wrong end of the stick about it sometimes. We overcomplicate the notion of influence and impact. We all have it all the time. We have it in different situations. And what's fascinating to me is that many people leave part of themselves at home when they go to work and leave part of themselves at work when they come home. Yeah. And in reality, you've got this whole kind of range that you can play. And many of us, if you think of the kind of keys on a piano, many of us are playing like 2 or 3 notes. Well, that doesn't make a very interesting piece of music. So if you can start to understand the notes that you have access to, then it just makes you much more effective. And I think that analogy of, you know, the dinner party or the conversation, it's much better if you are the sort of person that gets anxious, nervous in the spotlight, to take the spotlight off yourself and turn it straight onto the audience. And if you do that, then you really start to connect and you really start to have influence. Yes,
the engagement is so valuable and important for flow. So that brings me to this lovely concept of yours, your flow training. Explain what that means.
So, so our business is called Inflow Training, and for me, the word flow came from my background as an actor. So, you know, when you're in that zone, when things are just kind of happening, and you sit in the middle of it without any effort, that for me is the sweet spot. And I had many a night where I stepped out on stage and that happened, and then I also had nights where I stepped out on stage and that wasn't happening. But if I had the tools in my toolkit, then I was able to apply them in the moment and start to recreate or push myself into that inflow space. So for me, yeah, it's a state that's accessible to all, but we need to put in the work underneath it. We need to go to the gym and do the repetitions so that when we find ourselves in those high stakes scenarios, things become easy rather than difficult.
Thinking back to my training, which was quite severe. So I'm being Welsh, you can imagine, you know, I'd slow everything down because once we get back to Wales, it's like this non-stop. The flow comes back into it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say that the physicality, so because I've been a fitness professional for many years, the physicality of it helped me.
Yes.
So
absolutely. I mean, there's a mind-body link, and I think most of us don't pay very much attention to it. But if I were to kind of press pause and freeze you in a moment where you are feeling kind of anxious or nervous or under pressure, I won't only be able to hear it in the words that you're saying and the tone of voice, but I'll be able to see it in your body. There'll be something happening to your shoulders. It might be macro, and you might be really making yourself small, or it might just be micro, and you're just displaying signs of tension. But actually, when we can kind of relax, when we can stay fluid, when we can stay grounded, we have much greater choice. We stop ourselves being in a fight or flight response, and we start to be able to use the prefrontal cortex of our brain to make decisions rather than having to just kind of run away from something or put up our fists and get stuck in. So yeah, that physical side of things is so important. As an actor, it was something that we, you know, spent so much time working with at drama school. And if you go to the theatre, you might, you know, if you go to the theatre on a Friday night at 7:00, you're sitting in the foyer having a gin and tonic. The actors are on stage doing all sorts of kind of crazy warm-ups, getting themselves in the zone, just like your athletes are, your footballers are. It's a performance space, high performance space. And many people don't think about communication in the workplace, especially as having that kind of status. But actually, if you want to be effective to do it, you've got to get yourself into the zone.
Yes, wise words. I'm hoping that lots of these things that we call them gems and nuggets are going to be heard by my fellow Speak to Inspire members, and I'm in contact with what we call the London Reel and the American Reel members, and they went through the similarity in terms of the severity and, you know, the nerves, and you know, we were not going to make it. One person in particular couldn't even speak, you know, she just froze completely, and yet we're still in touch because she's gone a different way, you know, she's got a different sort of toolbox.
Okay.
So I'm chuffed that you're here because there are not many of you, which, you know, for me is sad because communication is everything from my point of view. So I'm going to talk about books, and yes, that's the one I've I've published, well, I didn't publish it, Jason Pegler published it, his company, and it all starts with a conversation. Then I saw something that I thought was really deep, and that was the most important conversation is the one you have with yourself. And that's the most powerful one, and therefore be positive and be kind and be healthy. What's your view on your take on that?
I agree with that 100%. It all starts in your own mind, doesn't it? And it's interesting the kind of labels that we give ourselves and how we associate. I mean, one of your earlier questions, I answered. I'm a husband and a father. I used to very much associate with the "I am an actor" statement, and actually there were some things about that which was fabulous, and there were some things about that which were very limiting. And you need to be able to kind of rationalize that, I think, and make some choices for yourself about what you want to be in the world. Many of us spend far too much time thinking about what we want to do in the world, but I think it gets much more impactful if you focus on what you want to be. Yes,
just be. I love that. Because of I wrote a blog, and in it because I like drawing, there's a caricature with a kite, and it's just that flow. Again, back to flow.
Yeah.
Being. Talk about.
It's not easy though, is it? I mean, let's face it. It's really easy to talk about, and it's much less easy to do. And I think there are little moments in all of our days where we miss those opportunities. As before we joined this call, so my office is at the end of the garden, and I walked down with my glass of water from the kitchen, and we've got a lovely, what are they called, lupin, a lupin that's just kind of coming into bloom.
Yes.
And I managed to stop for just 15 seconds and look at the lupin before I came in here, and that might sound really kind of woo-woo to some of you that are listening to this, but actually it was a moment of pause. It was a moment of presence that just allowed me to kind of clear my head from all of the emails and the other stuff that have been going on, and I think that can be incredibly powerful. I think sometimes we go, oh God, I haven't got time for 20 minutes of meditation, or I didn't do my 90-minute yoga session this morning, but actually we've got to be able to grab those moments. I know you've been up since the crack of dawn. I'm sure you've done a few things to reset yourself before we jumped on this call.
True. Does colour have an impact on you? Because you talked about the lupin, because my daughter equally has just seen, I think it's because of the rain. We've had sunshine, we've had rain, and up they come. And she was delighted because she's grown this particular flower that, in the pot. So does colour have an impact on you? Because it does me.
I think probably unconsciously, it's not something that I've particularly spent a lot of time thinking about. I am Mr. Blue in terms of, I'm just looking at myself now, and I've got another blue shirt on, and I think all my wardrobe's full of it. So I mean, I love to see color used well. I'm a bit of a kind of magpie, so I like bright and shiny. That kind of gets my spirits up. Grey and flat, and I will be kind of influenced by that. The color of the sky makes a big difference.
Absolutely. Back to writing the book, I went through it, and I'm going to ask you if this, you can relate to this. I was in flow. Everything was going quite nicely. And then my son got married, and that was such an important day for us all, naturally, and him more than anybody, as he organized it himself. It went off beautifully, and that stopped me writing the whole day and build up to it, because I was making sure that he was okay. I stopped writing. So coming back to the flow of writing, I didn't really feel that it was right to carry on writing in the mode I was in. So I went to Gran Canaria.
Wow.
And the reason I'm telling you that is because of the colour. Because in Gran Canaria, we had the winter here, and it was grey and miserable and cold. And there were reds and yellows, and it worked.
It's interesting. I get very. I haven't been on a plane for a wee while now because of a certain virus, but I used to get very productive at 30,000 feet when I could look out of the window and see the blue sky. Maybe creative is a better word rather than productive. I used to write a lot of blog posts and sketch out ideas. In fact, I sketched out the map for the impact book on a flight. So that kind of metaphorical headspace and just being able to see into the yonder was very powerful.
I think that's the same thing that happened to me, because I took photographs from the window looking out, and it's being removed. It's being far removed from something.
Perspective,
in awe. Yeah. And I have to say, and the same for you, it's a question to you. I mixed with quite a lot of different people I would never have mixed with. And it was there because a lot of Germans were there and different nationalities. Their language, their culture, their behavior, even that was a stimulant. So is that similar to you?
I think travel has played a big part of my life. I was very lucky to move to Germany when I was 16. So I've been back and forth to Europe. My parents lived out there for 20 years. I've been to Africa and South America, North America, all over Europe. And I love that sort of sense of exploration, and I think it does kind of push you into a slightly different kind of headspace or mindset. One thing that I try and do on a semi-regular basis is just kind of go for a walk on my own somewhere that I've never been before, so that I just get an opportunity to go and experience. I'm very lucky. I live up in the Yorkshire, in between the Dales and the Moors, so I can go either way and go and see some interesting scenery. But that does have a big impact on my ability to be creative. When I wrote the book, it was winter. I was having to do early mornings because I was trying to kind of squeeze it in, and so there's a different rhythm that you have to create for that, and you have to try and find the inspiration, if you like, in the cold and the dark at 7 a.m. But again, I think then having space and time out and being able to look at things from a different perspective became very important when I went back through the painful, redrafts and second edits and all of that sort of stuff. That change of scenery is important, I think.
Can you describe how it's the transformation really of being a speaker, because obviously that's been a great part of your life, and becoming an author, the differences in that?
So I think writing a book for me helped me really crystallize my thinking and my ideas. Quite often when you're speaking, or if you're running training sessions or you're coaching people, you're using lots of different tools that you have in your toolkit, but you're kind of using them unconsciously and reacting in the moment. So when I had to take a step back and impact is for me the 6 pillars of effective communication. So the acronym is impact, and it stands for intention, mindset, presence, audience, content, and technique. And when I kind of took that step back and started to think about how all of the tools in my toolkit fitted into that model, it was seamless. It's not one of those things where I had to kind of like shoehorn stuff in. It very, very easily fit into that framework. And that has then allowed me to have much more freedom, I think, in the way that I use those tools. So a lot of the speeches that I give are now around elements of that impact model. And the things that I am now developing are offspring of that impact model in terms of, leading with impact, pitching with impact, those different kind of concepts.
Can you just break that up again for me, the impact? Break it up in terms of
so the I is intention. So what do you want people to know? What do you want them to feel? What do you want them to do? The M is mindset. So we've talked about this. How do you control those voices in your head? The P is presence. So physical and vocal. How do you show up? What are you? What kind of signals are you giving out? The A is audience. Who are they? How do you speak their language? The C is content. So what are you saying? What is the message? How do you package it up? I'm a great fan of frameworks rather than scripts. And then the T is technique. So how do you make it your own? Communication has to be authentic. People will see you a mile off if you try and pretend to be someone else. So as we started the conversation, those keys on the piano, what notes do you have access to? How can you broaden that? How can you build those muscles? How can you make the tools that people like me share, but make them your own? I think that's really important.
I love the analogy of the piano and the notes. That's the Jack Savaretti, because I watch it. I love his voice. But anybody who plays piano, you can actually cover that. So that's a lovely one. Thank you for that. Where's your happy place?
Just with my family, anywhere that my family are, really. We had a wonderful holiday in the first part of lockdown, in that summer where you could just about get out of the country. And we all went camping in France, and it was just fabulous. I prefer simple to extravagant. Yes,
and Yorkshire is very much.
Yeah, absolutely. That. Yeah, it's very good. I mean, it's great. You can walk out of the front door and be in a happy place.
They have tremendous humour too, if I remember. My sister went to Lady Mabel, Yorkshire. And I can remember visiting her, and she was homesick in the beginning, long way from Wales. And but the humour was similar in terms of
it's very kind of grounded. I mean, so my daughter was born in York, within the sound of the Minster bells. So she is technically a Yorkshire lass. And has got her kind of passport. I think I'll probably forever be an outsider. It doesn't matter how long I live here. I'm not sure I'll get the stripes, but it's a fantastic part of the country. I love it.
Do you have a mentor?
I have several mentors in different spaces. I think having people that you can talk to, bounce ideas off is really important, but also that you kind of team up with people who can offer you challenge. So along with mentors, I have a series of friends who are also business owners and professionals, and we kind of will speak to each other on a regular basis and say, what are you doing? What should I be doing with this? Is that working? Because I think if you don't, then you just stagnate a little bit.
I think so much value in what you just said there, because we used to have masterminds, where we just sit there and brainstorm. And once you're in that kind of atmosphere and capability, skill set, you miss it when you're not there. There's Absolutely. Something not right. Listen. Thank you so much. I'm going to I'm delighted that you made it. Google having confused the two of us, but we made it. Have a wonderful weekend with your family.
Thank you very much.
And enjoy the retriever.
We will do. Thanks very much. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.